What's going on, everybody? This is George again. You might say, man, he's always in bed. Well, I'm actually utilizing my time to make these videos while I am in bed and can't do anything. I really hurt my back at work. Well, actually, I hurt it at home. But it's been a whole career of landscaping that just tore my back up. So I'm resting. Anyways, I'm using this time to make a video. This one's actually specifically for a friend. He wanted a kind of a testimony on what happened with me and my cancer. This isn't my testimony. This would just be a small little part of it. My testimony will actually be at church when God's ready for that. But anyways, my cancer story started off actually a couple years ago, and I was with my son's mom at the time. We had been together about 8 years, and I could feel things going on in my body that I knew weren't natural. And at that time, I was actually still smoking cigarettes. I was making horrible choices. I wasn't healthy. I was just living my life within my terms, the way I wanted to live it. And I went to her and I told her, I said, Amanda, I think honestly that I have cancer. I said, I feel it. I feel something different within inside me. And I'm sure that I have cancer. And she immediately said, no, don't talk like that. Don't think like that. And I said, I don't want to have it. I don't, want it any more than the next person, but I'm sure I have it. And, it was forgotten about, 2 years passed on and life played out the way it did. I ended up getting, the job that I ended up at. Life had bounced me around and finally put me in a specific job with specific people, more specifically people that would help, people that were able to get me through the struggles that cancer brought about. God set up a perfect lineup of people that just lifted me right through this cancer. And so anyways, here's how it all came about. I'm living my life last year. No, it's November, mid-November, and I got all these ideas on my mind. I got the whole winter mapped out. I had an invention I was ready to work on and get that into production. And actually, I had an idea with my father-in-law that I was looking to pursue, and that got put on the back burner for a minute, but it's still there. Anyways, I am ripping forms off of planks out at a job site we were doing, and they were held down by screws. Problem was, the screws had been ran over with a forklift for the last year, so the screw heads were covered in dirt and debris. And so we're trying to find these screws and pull them out slowly, I guess. And boss man looks over and goes, "No, boys, let's just rip that stuff up." And so I'm like, all right. So I bend down and I grab this piece of plywood and I go to rip it right off the railroad ties. And I got it, but I put my hand right into a screw. And, it left a tiny little scar. I don't even know if you can see it on my palm. But that tiny little scar saved my life. Because I go to the hospital. And I'm going for what I think is a tetanus shot. And that's what I got. Tetanus shot and, some antibiotics. And they send me on my way home for the weekend. This happened on a Friday. And go home for the weekend. Wake up Monday morning to go to work. I'm like, yeah, feeling good. Until I go to move my arm. And my arm literally won't move. And this is my left arm. My right arm has always been my biggest dominant arm. And at this point, my left arm is twice the size of my right arm, and I'm like, holy cow. Go to work anyway. And throughout the next couple hours, I start sharing this with one of my coworkers. He's actually one of my best friends. And start telling him, and he says, dude, you don't want to mess around with that. You need to get to the hospital. I said, you think I should? And he goes, absolutely. And so he went down to my father-in-law, who's actually my big boss, bigger, and tells him my story. And boss man comes up and says, yeah, I already cleared it with the big boss. You need to go get your arm checked out. Okay. So I head back to the hospital. This is an LNI approved facilitation, and all my ducks are in row. I'm going by the quota mandated by LNI. Getting checked out. Making sure to document it, whatever. And come to find out, they say you got 2 blood clots in your arm, and we're gonna send you to the Valley Hospital. Well, they send me to the Valley Hospital, and from there I get the Valley Hospital was actually my first visit. I actually went to a Northside Hospital to get checked out, and this was at like 11 o'clock at night. And I had my fiance take me. I told her that I need to go to the hospital. Something's bad. My arm's getting worse, not better. And I'm on antibiotics. It should be healing. And it wasn't. And by now my chest had swollen. And it was right above my heart. And that's when panic set in. I was like, it's getting too close to my heart. I need to go get it looked at. Well, I go in, and again, I'm expecting, I call my boss, let him know it's 11 o'clock at night, like, hey, buddy, I'm going back to the hospital, and he says, all right, good luck, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. And little did I know that trip to the hospital would change the rest of my life, and more so the next 4 months, especially 5 months. I check into just a minor emergency facility on the north side, and they do ultrasounds. They've located the 2 blood clots in my arm, and from then we're curious, okay, why did those blood clots occur? And so they put me through a CT scan and end up locating a huge mass off of the upper side of my heart. It'd be off the aorta valve. And they labeled it as cancer. And they actually, I'm sorry, at that moment they didn't label it quite as cancer. They said it's a mass that needs to be taken care of. And if it's benign, if it's non-cancerous, I don't remember which one's which, but if it's cancerous, then we need to hit it with chemo immediately. If it's malignant, or the one that's not cancerous, then we will remove it with surgery. And I say, okay, so now is a waiting game. I go down and I take a biopsy of this mass. And now I'm sitting around waiting on the results, knowing that it's either going for surgery immediately and get this mass removed, or start chemo. And that was the longest waiting week of my life. I sat around crying and wondering what God had for me next. I was hold on, I gotta reposition, sorry. Question what God had for me next. And I knew it was something big, because all this time God had been telling me, I should say I had been asking and knowing that he was going to respond, to rebuild me and to strengthen me and to fix me into the man you want me to be. And I knew that part of his plan was healing this cancer, because I couldn't be at my strongest without it. And so I go into, or I get the call from my doctor, and it's finally confirmation time. This is at 8 in the morning. And that's one thing I did not like about this doctor. He was very punctual on time, and he was always at my doorstep at like 7 a.m. And I'm not an early riser, but oh man, he would always be the first guy to knock on my door to wake me out of a dead sleep, and I'd be like, man, not this guy, but I love him to death. Awesome doctor. And anyways, he comes and says, George, I'm sorry to tell you, but you have cancer, and it's aggressive, and we need to hit it more aggressive. And he said, we're getting you into chemo immediately, where you're not even leaving the hospital. There is no preparation for this. It's boom, we're hitting it with chemo, and it's getting taken care of. And I believed him. I knew what he was telling me was truth, and that yeah, you're right, we got to hit it hard. And so I immediately get geared up. I go get a port put into my chest. This is so they can inject a needle and run things intravenously through this port instead of running a needle through my arm, which was huge. And go get this port and put into me, and immediately start chemo. And it was a 5-day stint of chemo, 5 solid days of chemo, and then I got 16 days off, both totaling a 21-day cycle. So you'd get 5 days on solid at the hospital, 16 days off at home, and then repeat for 6 cycles. So I knew this was going to take up about close to 5 months of my life. And I was more than happy with that, because I knew at the end of the 5 months what was coming. And it's the man God created me to be. It's a healthy man. It's an amazing man, and I feel it, man. I felt immediately when the cancer left my body, just as I felt when it entered. And so anyways, long story short, I go through with the chemo, and I knew the attitude was key. Attitude is huge with your recovery rate, and it's huge to your survival through this cancer. You have to maintain the right mindset. You have to know that, hey, yeah, God's helping me through this. God has a plan. But, at the same point, there are people that are terminally ill. They're ill, and God always says that when life becomes misery, I'll remove you from that misery. And so I don't believe God just goes around taking people. I believe he knows exactly when it's time to remove them from their misery. And so he does so. And us as humans don't understand that. We get bitter, like, oh, you took my mom. Well, dude, your mom was suffering, man. Your mom was ill. She was suffering. I put her in a better place. And that's not me speaking. It's obviously what I hope God would say. But hey, I took her and I put her in a better place. I put her in the kingdom of heaven. And that's what I truly believe. That when it's your time, God knows, and God acts. So anyways, I fight this huge 6 month battle. It was 5 months, 6 rounds of chemo battle. And man, I won. I toughed my way through every little round. I had a solid week after chemo where it wiped me out. I was sick. I could not move out of bed, and people didn't understand it. People were like, what's going on? But I knew I needed that rest. I needed that healing time. So I would take a week to myself after every round of chemo, and I would let my body heal from the poisons and stuff they're putting in your body to rid this chemo. It's bad stuff. And it's killing good and bad cells. You know, white blood cells. That's what it's after, is killing the cells that are cancerous, harmful, but it also is killing good cells. You know, like your hair cells. That's why you lose your hair. I lost all my hair. It's back. So anyways, I just attacked this whole process with an amount of faith that I didn't even know I had. But I knew prior to this ever happening that God had told me this is for a much bigger plan. This is to bring you back to the top of your own life, to bring health to your body. And it was May 17th. May 17th, I had to wait about I guess it was close to 2 months. 2 months after my last round of chemo to find out if this chemo had actually worked. And people would always come up to me and ask me, "Hey man, you nervous? You worried?" And I said, "No man, I already know I'm healed. I know I'm healed. I feel it. I feel it. I know I'm healed. I'm not worried about that part. This confirmation is for you guys, not me." And wouldn't you know it, I go into the to Rockwood Clinic and go meet with my oncologist, and I said, you know, I wanna get straight to the news. You know, is everything okay? And immediately he looks at me and says, "Well, buddy," he goes, "you don't have to take your meds no more. You can get that port removed, and everything's fine because we see no signs of cancer in you whatsoever. And not only are you in remission, but we believe that you're healed from this until a different episode." You know, he said possibly you could worry about skin cancer in the future, or a different cancer, but he said this cancer off of your heart, this lymphoma, we believe is healed and gone. And I started crying right there in the office and said, "You know what, buddy? You're an amazing guy, and I love you for that, and I thank you so much for your services, because man, God put an amazing group of people in my life for this, and that doctor was one of them. That doctor knew what he was talking about. He knew what was going on. He knew that, hey, we got to hit this aggressively, and it's gonna work." And that's how he would come to me. You know, he'd say, "Yeah, there's a small non-success rate, but also 9 out of 10 make it." And once he said 9 out of 10 make it, I knew for sure I wasn't that unlucky. I told people, "I'm unlucky, but I'm not that unlucky." You know, and it was all a joke. Obviously, I don't even consider myself as luck. I consider it as blessed. But anyways, so again, my video's reaching close to 20 minutes, and I think that's more than a chunk of time for you guys to listen to me. So I thank you for hearing me out this long. Hopefully this helps you, give you some strength through maybe some of the battles you're going through. Because if you center God as your focus and your drive towards Him every day, life can be so amazing, man. He has a plan for you that you couldn't even fathom. You know, you could think about it for days, and He works in minor details that you never even knew possible, you know. So don't ever lose your faith. Keep up the fight. And I hope that this helps some of you, or even just one of you. Love you guys. And in Jesus' name, amen. God bless.